Hello, friends. I welcome you all to this 13th video on law of evidence. In this video, we will be looking after section 9 of the Indian Evidence Act. As usual, before going any further, let us have a brief overview as to what all we are going to study in this session. So first we will see the Bare Act provision, in which you will see the modes which have been made relevant under Section 9 of Indian Evidence Act. And I have made an acronym so that we can remember it easily, and that is TIRES. Thereafter, we will see the illustrations which are attached to Section 9 of Indian Evidence Act. These illustrations are very important because they have been asked in the preliminary examination many a times. Thereafter, we will see the test identification. Friends, the test identification parade is made relevant under Section 9 of Indian Evidence Act. And this question as such has also been asked, that test identification has been made relevant under which section of Indian Evidence Act. The answer will be Section 9 of Indian Evidence Act. So let's proceed. First we will see the Bare Act provision. So Section 9, it states facts necessary to explain or introduce relevant facts. So facts which are necessary to explain or introduce a fact in issue or relevant fact, or which support or rebut an inference suggested by a fact in issue or relevant fact, or which establish the identity of any thing or person whose identity is relevant, or fix the time or place at which any such fact in issue or relevant fact happens, or which show the relation of the parties by whom any such fact was transacted are relevant insofar they are necessary for that purpose. So friends, basically section 9 makes certain modes relevant. That is, if a fact is there and that fact is connected with fact in issue or relevant fact by any of these 5 modes which have been made under section 9 relevant, then that fact becomes a relevant fact by virtue of section 9. Now, in order to remember it, I have made an acronym TIRES. So you must have be remembering that whenever we go for railway reservation, we are asked AC2 tire, 3 tire. So, and to remember it, I have put a picture also of Indian Railway, where this is the lower berth, this is the middle berth, this is the upper berth. So tire system is there. Now here T stands for time. So anything which fix the time of fact in issue or relevant fact are relevant. Then I stands for identity. So anything which fix the identity of person, place or thing related to fact in issue or relevant fact are relevant. Anything which explains the fact in issue or relevant fact are relevant. Anything which shows the relation of parties are also relevant. Anything with support or rebut an inference related to fact in issue or relevant facts are relevant under section 9. So section 9 basically makes these 5 types of relationship between a fact and fact in issue relevant. Now let us see one by one these modes. So one is introductory facts. Friends, introductory facts are the preliminary facts. These are the background, these are the preface to what something happens. So it makes the main fact more comprehensible. It provides a background to the main fact and therefore they are relevant. Now, 2 illustrations are attached to it, illustration A and illustration B. Illustration A reads, the question is whether a given document is will of A. The estate of A's property and of his family at the date of alleged will may be relevant. So when the question is whether this particular piece of paper is will of A or not, then the facts which are related to as to members of the family of A, then the property of A, on the date on which this will was allegedly made, or this will was made, which is the alleged will, is relevant because they are introductory facts. Then another is illustration B. A sues B for libel imputing disgraceful conduct to A. B affirms that the matter alleged to be libellous is true. The position and relation of parties at the time when libel was published may be relevant fact as introductory to the fact in issue. So the question is whether A has what he accused B, that he has committed a libel. Libel means that written defamation. Now B claims that this fact which A says are libel is actually true. Then the position of the parties, the position of party A and B, the relation of the parties A and B becomes relevant because they are introductory facts with respect to the fact in issue or relevant fact. This second part of illustration B we will be studying when we will see the how relation between parties have been made relevant under section 9. Then another thing which have been made relevant is the explanatory facts. Now explanatory facts provides details to the fact in issue or relevant fact. They provide the missing link and help us to understand the real nature of the transaction that takes place between the parties, and therefore they have been made relevant under section 9 of Indian Evidence Act. Now, two illustrations attached to it which are important are illustration E and illustration F. Now, illustration E states A is accused of theft and he is seen to give the stolen property to B. Now, B gives it to A's wife and he says when he is delivering it, A says you are to hide this. B's statement is relevant as explanatory of a fact which is part of the transaction. So the question is whether A has committed a theft or not. He has been accused of a theft. And the facts are that he has given the stolen property to B and B has delivered it to A's wife. And while he was delivering it to A's wife, he has stated that it is your husband has asked this to hide it. Now, this statement is relevant as regard to the theft, alleged theft committed by A, because they are explanatory of the relevant fact. Now, another is F, which is based on Lord Garden's case. Please remember, friend, this may be asked in your preliminary examination. Now, what it states is that A is tried for a riot and is proved to have marched at the head of a mob. The cries of mob are relevant as explanatory of the nature of transaction. So A is accused that he was heading a mob and that mob created a riot. Now what the mob was crying at the time when it was, or the sloganeering of the mob is relevant because it explains the nature of transaction that is to be done by the mob as such. Then things which support or rebut any inference. So anything which support a fact in issue, anything which rebut a fact in issue, anything which support a relevant fact, anything which support a fact in issue. So anything which support or rebut any inference is relevant. Now illustration C is attached to it. A is accused of a crime. The fact that soon after the commission of the crime, A absconded from his house. is relevant under section 8 as conduct subsequent to and affected by facts in issue. So A is accused of a crime, and just after the crime he has absconded. Now this is a fact which will go against A, and it will be relevant under section 8 as a conduct subsequent to the fact in issue. Now, the fact that at the time when he left home, he had sudden and urgent business at the place to which he went is relevant as tending to explain the fact that he left home suddenly. Now, so the prosecution says that A has committed the crime, and one of the evidence is his conduct that he has absconded as soon as after the crime has taken place. Now, defense can say that as such A has not absconded. Actually, A had a sudden and urgent business at the place where he went. Now, that thing actually rebuts the inference that A absconded because of in order to escape the consequence of his crime. So then it becomes relevant under section 9. However, the details of the business on which he left are not relevant, except in so far they are necessary to show that business was sudden and urgent. So the details of the business is not necessary in this case. Only thing which will be necessary is that in order to show that it was sudden and urgent in nature, and that is why he has to go. Now, based on this, there is one important case law, and that is Matru versus the state of Uttar Pradesh. Now, in this case, a crime took place, and accused was with the complainant all the time. Even he went with the complainant to the police station, FIR was lodged. Later on, what happened is that he thought or he became suspicious that actually police is suspecting him. And thereafter, what he did is that he started avoiding the complainant and avoiding the police also. Now, the prosecution tried to prove this fact against him that as he is avoiding the complainant, he is avoiding the police in order to keep himself out of the suspicion, so it can be taken against him. However, the defense said that it is quite normal that a person, if he thinks that police is suspecting him, then he will keep out of the way. Court found that this is an important thing which rebuts the inference that he has committed the crime, and therefore it was made relevant under section 9 as something which rebut an inference. I will just read it out. The accused was all the time with the complainant till the FIR was lost. Thereafter, he felt that he was himself being suspected. So, he thought that I am under the lens. He then kept out of the way and evaded arrest. It was held that the evidence of his conduct previous to FIR was relevant because previous to FIR he was always with the complainant, even went to with the complainant to lodge the FIR, was relevant to contradict the inference suggested by subsequent evading. The court said that even an innocent man may feel panicky and try to evade arrest when wrongfully suspected of a grave crime. So, anything which support or rebut an inference is relevant as such. Now, one similar case is R versus Pierce. Now, in this case, a person was accused of robbing another person of his coat. And what he did is that he robbed the person of his coat by threatening him that if he does not give him his cloth, he will accuse him of an unnatural crime. Now, the fact which the prosecution tried to give against the accused person is that he had robbed in similar manner, he had robbed other persons also. Now, they were found relevant as they support the inference that he must have or he may have had done the robbing on that day also. So I will just read it. where the prisoner was charged with robbing the complainant of a court by threatening to accuse him of an unnatural crime. So he threatened him that I will accuse you of unnatural crime if you do not give me your coat. The evidence was tried to be adduced to the effect that on the following night he was attempting to rob another person of his coat. So, with one night before also, he tried to rob another person of his coat. The fact that the accused was trying to rob another person was not an issue in the present case, but the fact was allowed only because it supported the inference that the man must have committed robbery on the date in question. So, though the act which was done by him previous night, that is attempting to rob another person of his coat, was not relevant, was not fact in issue, but it was made relevant because it supported the inference that as he has done the previous night, so he may have had done this night also. Now, another thing is that for things which establish the identity of person or thing are also made relevant under section 9. So, friends, while police investigation, even in news, you must have had seen that when police arrest a person, he covers the face of the accused. Now, this is all because of the identification parade. Now, identification parade is that when the witness does not know the accused beforehand and he has seen the accused only on the date when the crime was actually committed, and later on police arrests him, and then if the witness identifies that person, then it supports, it corroborates the fact that maybe he is the same person who has committed the crime. So the question of identification arises when the accused is not known to the witness. If the accused is already known, there is no question of identification parade. Section 54A of CRPC also deals with it, which we will deal when we are dealing with criminal procedure code. Now, there are certain principles of test identification parade which has been laid by Supreme Court. One is that it is not a substantive piece of evidence, rather it is only a corroborative evidence. Friends, please remember that test identification parade is in itself not a substantive evidence, it is just a corroborative evidence. This question may be asked in preliminary examination. Then another thing is that it should be conducted as soon as possible after the arrest of accused. So once he is arrested, as soon as possible, it should be conducted. Else, there is always a chance of mixing the thing, or there is always a chance of showing the accused to the witnesses beforehand to the test identification parade. Then the witness should not be known to the accused beforehand. If he already knows the accused beforehand, there is no point in conducting the test identification parade. Now, there are certain points on which the defense tries to cross examine the witness after the test identification parade result. Now, those points are very important in case you are a practicing lawyer. One is the adequacy of light at the time of incident. So if the light is not adequate and yet witness is able to identify it, this means that the witness is not telling the truth, because if there is not sufficient light, he cannot see the person. Then visibility is also an important aspect. So the defense witness can ask that what was the visibility at that time, whether it was daytime, whether it was night, or whether it was twilight zone, or whether it was early morning of a winter night. Then the vision of witness is also to be noted. Now, if the witness is having a very poor vision and he says that the accused was standing at a distance of 50 meters, then certainly it is to be suspected as such. Another thing is that it is a weak piece of evidence. I have already told that it is a substantive evidence, not in itself. It is just a corroborative evidence. It is not a substantive evidence. Then there is a case law, Asis Batham versus the state of MP. Now, in this case, there was a murder, and the victim was wearing a gold necklace. Now, from the accused, a gold necklace was found, and that gold necklace was having a iron hook, same as that what the accused, uh, same as what the victim had. Now, identification was done, and the parents of the victim were able to identify the gold necklace. Now, this provided an evidence that as the necklace which was on the body of the victim has been found from the accused, so maybe the accused is the person who has done the murder. But this identification was not held valid, because when identification parade is done, or when identification of things are to be done, the thing is to be mixed with similar articles. So we cannot put one particular thing only and ask a person to identify it. It has to be mixed with similar looking articles, so that a better identification, a more clearer identification is established. So the case was relating to identification of property. This was a murder case. Chain worn by deceased was recovered from the accused. So from the accused body, the chain was recovered. Now, chain was alleged to have an iron wire in place of hook. Chain was not mixed with similar chain at the time of identification. So, as it was not mixed with similar chain, it was only one chain which was given to identify, and they identified it. Therefore, identification of chain by parents of deceased was held to be doubtful in nature. So, whenever an identification is to be done, it has to be mixed with things of similar nature. Then, in Surinder Singh versus State of Bihar, their firing took place on certain persons who were sitting in a car. Now, FIR was lost, and in that FIR, the injured eyewitness said that I cannot identify the accused. However, when identification parade was held, he said he was able to identify the accused. Now, there was a contradiction in the statement. In FIR, before the police, what he is saying is that he is not able to identify, or he won't be able to identify the assailants. But in identification parade, he was able to identify. So, as there was this contradiction, therefore, the conviction was liable to be set aside. So, in Surinder Singh versus State of Bihar, there was firing at inmates of car. Identification of accused was in question. Injured eyewitness identifying him at the test with identification parade. So, injured eyewitness identified him in the test identification parade. But in FIR, he stated that he could not identify the accused assailant. Now, identification in test identification parade had thus no force. Conviction is liable to be set aside because of the contradiction between the FIR and in the test identification parade. Friends, these pictures are just for the purpose of you to remember the thing. They are not the real, it is just an allegory. Then those facts which fix time and place of fact in issue or relevant fact have also been made relevant under the section 9 of Indian Evidence Act. So those which fix time when the event took place, or fact in issue or relevant fact took place, or those which establish the location are also relevant. And they become more relevant when the accused pleads LAP. We will learn about it in section 11. Then facts showing relations. So fact which shows the feelings of parties to each other. Fact which shows the state of relation between the parties are also relevant. Whether the parties are friendly with each other, whether the party are in strained relation with each other. So now we will again come to the illustration B, which we studied earlier, that A accused B of libel. B claims that whatever he has said is true and therefore he cannot be prosecuted. He has committed no crime as such. Then this says the particulars of a dispute between A and B about a matter unconnected with the alleged libel are irrelevant, though the fact that there was a dispute may be relevant if it affected the relation between A and B. So the fact that there was a dispute between A and B will be relevant because it shows the relation between A and B, that they were having a strained relation. But the particulars of the dispute, as if they are not connected with the alleged libel, then they are not relevant as such. So relations are important as to what is the state of relation between the two parties under section 9 of Indian Evidence Act. So we'll just have a quick recap as to what all we have done under section 9 of Indian Evidence Act. So friends, we saw the Bayer Act provision first. And in the Bayer Act provision, we saw that there are 5 modes which have been made relevant. One is time, identity of person, place, thing, explain, relations, and support or rebut. So anything which is related with fact in issue or relevant facts by any of these 5 modes are being made relevant under section 9 of Indian Evidence Act. Then introductory facts are those which makes the main fact more comprehensive. They are the preliminary facts. Then explanatory facts are those which provides more details to the fact in issue or relevant fact, and they help us to understand the real nature of the transaction between the parties. Then those facts which support or rebut the inference related to fact in issue or relevant fact are also relevant. In case Matru versus State of UP, we saw that the fact that the accused was all the time with complainant was relevant to show that even after when the police suspected and he started evading the police and the complainant, then it is relevant because anyone can feel panicky and avoid the police and the complainant if he thinks that he is himself being suspected. Then in R versus Pierce, we saw that when a man tries to rob another of his coat on the ground that he will accuse him of an unnatural offense, then the fact that earlier that the following night also he had attempted to do the same is relevant because it supports the inference of the guilt of the accused. Then things which establish the identity of person or thing are also relevant. So under section 9, test identification parade has been made relevant, but there are certain principles behind it. First, they are not substantive evidence, rather they are only corroborative piece. Then they should be conducted as soon as possible after the arrest of the accused. Then the witness should not be known to the accused beforehand, and the accused should also not know the witness. The adequacy of light at the time of incident is an important aspect. Visibility is also important. Vision of the witness, the ability to see is also an important aspect. And then it is a weak piece of evidence. So most important is that witness should not know the accused beforehand. Then in case of Assis Batham versus State of MP, we saw that whenever a test identification parade is to be done, the thing has to be mixed with things of similar nature. In Surinder Singh versus State of Bihar, we saw that there was a contradiction between what the eyewitness said in FIR and what he said in the test identification parade. So it was not accepted and live conviction was set aside. Then things which put the time or the place when the fact in issue or relevant fact took place are also relevant as such. Then facts which show the relation of parties, what is the feeling of one party to another, whether they are having strained relation or whether they are having friendly relations are also relevant. So that's all for this session. Thank you, friends.